And Joe, does it, when we look at the recent controversy around Trump and his ambitions in relation to Greenland, are there any links here that, when they talk about the sphere of influence and so on, that he's seeing, okay, well, we will have our part of the world, that hemisphere, they can have theirs?
Yeah, I think there are definite links between what you might call a more old-fashioned sphere of influence type approach to the world and what we're seeing now in terms of the US characterization of China. And we've had a couple of documents now. In November, we had the National Security Strategy. Now we've got the National Defense Strategy, both really are endorsements of this sphere of influence approach to world affairs. And I think this has sparked some concern, particularly among United States allies and particularly in Europe, that the United States is stepping back really to be a big dog in its own backyard. And it's turning away from Europe. And what we are seeing is a reinforcement of the importance of deterrence in the Indo-Pacific region. That is still very much identified as a key priority in the National Defense Strategy, Kieran, but it's these rhetorical shifts in language, which are, I think, very interesting because that reflects really how the administration conceives of the world, how it's thinking about China.
Indeed, and then when you deal with Donald Trump, you get the odd curveball, and we saw that over the last few days with the language around those that served in Afghanistan, and subsequently he's backed away from it, probably as close to an apology as you'd get from him, where he described the UK troops as brave warriors, but really that was a huge stumble and really faced a lot of condemnation. Keir Starmer and other leaders, our Prime Minister, calling it completely unacceptable.
Yeah, look, it was just a terrible comment, Kieran, a really big misstep. This is probably really the worst week in the UK relationship with the US in the last year. Of course, it's worth pointing out that Trump didn't apologise. He put up a sort of a conciliatory message on social media, saying that the UK troops did, a great job and they were very brave. But Keir Starmer demanded an apology. He didn't get one. This was very much rubbing salt in the wounds of America's European allies who served with Americans in Afghanistan. The whole world was on America's side after 9/11. For example, Denmark owns Greenland. This was the center of the recent controversy last week in Davos and leading up to last week. But Denmark, in terms of sort of the per capita death rate in Afghanistan, had one of the highest death rates out of all the allied partners fighting in Afghanistan. So this was a very unwise comment from Donald Trump, not very diplomatic, and it just came at a particularly bad time.